and welcome to the special program of The Hype, where minds collide and ideas amplified. I'm your host, Zhang Zhenyi, coming to you live from China's capital, Beijing City. Well, I'm sure for many viewers around the world, during the past month, one name has been coming up frequently. That is哪吒. Today, we're going to dive into this Chinese animated blockbuster and explore the unique charm of Chinese culture. Joining us today are two very distinguished guests. We have Mr. Raymond Zhou, who is the renowned film critic and researcher whose insights redefine how we view cinematic art. And we have Mr. Meng Zhihui, director and CEO of Heywow Studios, who led the team behind some of哪吒most breathtaking sequences. Welcome. Okay, before we dive into today's topic with you two, I'd like to start with some data. I'd like to share with my audience the box office of this year's China's Spring Festival film season. Let's take a look. So during the 2025 Spring Festival film season in Chinese mainland, we got 19.9 billion yuan, that's around $2.74 billion in total. Let's break it down.哪吒 2 comes top, and it has got 13.5 billion yuan, that's around $1.86 billion. And Detective Chinatown 1900 follows at 3.3 billion yuan, that's around $455.1 million. Creation of the God 2 comes 1.2 billion yuan, that's around $165.5 million. And we got Boony Bears, Future Reborn, earns 764.8 million yuan, that's around $105.5 million. But the story doesn't end here. Up to now,哪吒 2 has become the highest grossing animated film globally and currently ranked 8th on the all-time worldwide box office list. Well, without further ado, let's start our conversation today with Mr. Meng and Raymond in Chinese. 欢迎二位老师。
Welcome you too. And Raymond, you have mentioned that哪吒 2 is another milestone in the history of Chinese animation. Can you share with us your feelings? Anything, the plots or characters that stand out to you? Well, for me, I'm so excited after watching the film哪吒 2. You can say it's an excellent masterpiece. We talk about, if you look at the global trend, no matter that's the artist or film, actually is limited to certain circle. So we talk about China enjoys a large population. So if you just look at a group of people, then you could win a lot. But you look at哪吒 2, we talk about that really, like, the whole family is good to watch that film. So we talk about this is very successful. We talk about, if you look at for the whole industry, this is with great significance. As an ordinary audience, when I went to the movie theater, actually, I enjoyed the movie so much. Let me give you a simple example. To talk about, actually, this is not really limited to certain circle of people or certain country. We talk about that mom want to hug哪吒at the beginning, right? But哪吒said, no, it's embarrassing. And then he laughed, right? So we talk about, actually, it's not a big deal. But it's not. We talk about this is a very, very small moment, but it reflects that the family dynamics. So think about, like, if you have a kids or just yourself, when you come to your teenager age, you could really say, actually, your mom want to hug you, then say, no, mom, it's fine. It's really to very familiar story happen to every family. So we talk about this is so close to our day-to-day life, and also really see people really resonate with that scene online. Actually, talk about there are a lot of these kind of moments reflected in哪吒 2. We talk about this is actually a very good example in the Chinese animation industry, but also a great contribution to the world film industry. So actually, it's a really, really good experience. No matter it's the elderly people, younger ones, actually with any age, from any background, you could really, really inspire a lot. Totally agree with you. actually one of the touching moments for me is like the Naja's mom saying that you should wear warm, that yourself outside, so that really behave, that really manage your temper. Actually, there's a lot of touching moment. So for Naja too, really led us to think about that the success. It's just like one thing or it's representative. So what's the reason behind? We talk about Naja 2 is not the accidental success, it's an inevitable success. So we took at if actually for the Chinese movie started from 1930s, 40s, and then developed to 1979, we had a very first Naja theory. So that's the Naja theory. Naja conquered the Dragon King. So if you look at that film from today's angle, it's a very simple movie, but we talk about compared to that 10 years ago, that's the film Monkey King, Hero is Back. So that's in 2003. We talk about that. Starting from there, we know that what we could draw our attention from. So we talk about actually we got a lot of inspiration from Chinese culture. We talk about a lot of things actually come from different perspective of a culture, but that also can share with the whole world. So we talk about that this is something that really can support a whole film. That's the essence of the culture. And also we could see after that we have a large number of the animated film represented by Naja series. So we talk about Naja actually it's very outstanding. And Naja also create a lot of records. We talk about that Naja really can reach out different age groups, can really reach out to different circles of people, and people actually share the same feeling, and especially for people from this industry. We're really happy to see that for the criticize for me, actually for myself or for our job, it's not really something we really focused, but we talk about that. So we're so excited when we saw this movie. We've really and also when we see that Raymond, actually we really see your excitement and enthusiasm. So I also would like to ask Mr. Meng. So this time, actually, you contribute a lot to Naja 2. So Mr. Meng, share with us which part of the movie actually in charge by your group. Thank you very much. For Naja 2, we participated in the scene, that's the fighting scene, that's and also the post-credit scenes, as well as a spin-off. So that's the scene we in charge of. That's the our brothers, real and fake showdown. We talk about actually you already participated in Naja 1. So when you were asked to work with this IP again, what was the mood of the team members? Excited or feel big pressure? So pressure comes first. So before we started Naja 2, we just finished the Deep Sea film. So that's also very challenging work. And before we actually asked to work with Naja 2, we first of all to really learn from my team to see whether my team is willing to take that challenge or not. And we also, first of all, we talk about Naja 2 is for sure even more challenging than Naja 1 because we already got a lot by Naja 1. But for the team 2, they are still very excited and would like to take this challenge. So we decided to work with Naja 2. So talk about challenges, as you mentioned. Yes, indeed, we talk about this time, including me. Actually, we're so impressed and shocked by that dazzling visual effects. So what is the most challenging part this time and how your team overcome all these difficulties? So for Ne Zha 1, back then, my team was a small team, and we focused on the animation part. For Ne Zha 2, we already enlarged my team, and my team actually covered the whole working process. So for us, for each stage of the process, I can see full of challenges and difficulties. So in terms of assets, so first it should look good, right? But also that should be really detail-driven. We talk about modeling. And also your structures, you make sure that everything is smooth and nature. It should be lifelike. And also for animation, it should be really act like the real person in the real scene. Of course, we also talk a lot with the directors, and also the team performed by themselves first, and then the team really to discuss in details every motion. And the director Jiao is really good at acting, so he gave us a lot of the suggestions. And also we take a lot of reference on his action. And in terms of that, the visual effect, we should make it really compelling. We talk about the water, the fluid, right? The water flow that should be really in line with the physical law, and that should also look very beautiful. So that's actually, you talk about water flow, how difficult that could be. But it's the simple thing, you look at, that's the most difficult part. And we also talk about the flowing, that the clothing, that the water liquid, everything that's full of challenges. In terms of the action scene, first you need to design the movement, right? So we talk about it should look nice and look very powerful. So we talk about that's difficult plus difficult, and also we always pursue excellence. So as a audience, I really to say you and your team, your contribution, your hard work paid back. You talk about all the details. Actually, we really feel that. It's really like it's happened just in real time. For Raymond, I have a question. Ne Zha is a very important figure in Chinese mythology, and also his story is well known to almost every household in China. This time, Ne Zha 1 and 2 have made some significant adaptations to the traditional version of the story that we are familiar with, such as Ne Zha returned his flesh and blood to his mother and father, and pulling out the dragon's tendon, and Ne Zha conquers the Dragon King. So what's all these behind that adaptations? So we talk about Ne Zha, actually, if you look at this time, so you know that's very different from that's the original story, and also people buy in that adaptation. So first of all, this is something traditional, but we talk about it's not just 100% copy the original story. We actually bring that old story, put in the new context. We talk about it's an old bottle, but we fill in new wine into it. So we talk about it's totally different. That's just more we talk about artistic change. So when you made that decision, of course, you know that you really shoulder a huge pressure. If you get success, then people always give you that thumbs up, that well done. But if you're not successful, then really a lot of criticism on your adaptations. So we have already seen a lot of different cases. So we talk about that for Ne Zha. We also talk about that the different age people, either it's male, female, a younger boy or girls. Actually, for Ne Zha, actually for different places, they have a different understanding and interpretation of a Ne Zha figure. And also we talk about whether Ne Zha himself should speak a standard language or should be speak in the dialect. So we talk about the director Jiao Zi actually did a great job here. He made, first of all, very bold decision. He first of all carried forward the traditional story, but selected We talk about some part of the really classic, impressive story. We talk about he bring that the family tie to that the new story, but things that out of date, he really makes some modified. And especially here, we talk about the highlight that the young age and also rebellious character. So we talk about that for Ne Zha is rebellious deity. So we talk about this is a really classic story, but really talk about something that resonate with the whole world. We talk about this is what young people look like, no matter where the young people come from. So this is really cross the culture, above the culture. So for the way that storytelling and also for the selected story part, I believe this is a really nice choice and a great decision. Yes, indeed, as you mentioned, this is something we're familiar with, that figure. So you need to be really brave and bold to make change. So from Ne Zha 1, Ne Zha back then really talk about my fate should be decided by myself. And then to Ne Zha 2, Ne Zha says that I'm a demon, so what? So do you like this change? For myself, I love it so much. So if you like Ne Zha 1 and 2, actually, this is something really everyone understand because this is really, really obvious. And also for the other, the claim actually is not really obvious, but really we really feel that. Let's say if you're parents, you have a kids, then for a parent, you not really see this movie from like a Ne Zha, like a kids. So for family, after they watch the movie, they thought about we should give our kids the wider space, more decision-making rights. So I believe that people with different background, like parents, like children, you will have different feelings after watch that movie. So this is a film, but really provide the big room for different group of people to learn from that movie. And I talk about this is really not easy to do that. It's not a mathematical question that after that you look at, you got this question, a formula, and you got the right answer. There's only one and the only answer to that question. We talk about for this film, you have that the main storytelling, but also you have other stories alongside. So for different people that no matter your parents or kids, actually you could really, really resonate with that story. So if we talk about that is why this is really good for the whole family to enjoy, for kids and also for the young parents and also for grandma, grandpa. Actually, you would watch the same movie, but actually you really learn different things, resonate with different things. I believe this is something really great. It's not easy to be done. So we talk about if you're a really conservative person to say we don't want to really make that bold, then the young people saying that this is not the way we talk, we behave, that this person is really conservative. That is why you look at the young people buying the story. And also for a Meng talk about from the technical part. So we talk about a lot of things really we buy in. So we talk about that the 100, the readers, they will interpret the 100, the Shakespeare's. So for Mr. Meng, so from Ne Zha 1 to Ne Zha 2, what's your feeling about that change? I really could see that the people in this industry, they made great progress step by step. First of all, requirements, challenges, embraced, of course, and also very luckily, along our journey, every milestone, every moment, we actually grow ourselves with the film. So for myself, I experienced the early days of 3D animation. So for the very, very beginning, in my early days, actually only got a handbook about how to operate the software. This is where we started with. And then for myself, for the very first time, I really hand-on operating animation as in Shenzhen. So we started as a student to learn how to really do the operation, how to do that. So actually, it's really, really, because back then we're really short of hands, so that for the students, we really got a immediate chance for us to really know how to really operate, to do that, the animation. So for the people in other countries, they may first need to accumulate 4 to 5 years of experience. So for us, we're quite lucky for a lot of really outstanding work. That we're really lucky because we cultivated, we nourished by these great pieces. So that is why for Naja 1 and 2, that's also actually made great achievements. So for us, actually, we not stop operating and the crafting. So we also help to do the work for other countries. And also the leaders of the other companies also actually give us trainings, talk about how to improve our skill set. We actually have a lot of these kind of like the mutual learning opportunities that also help us to really sharpen our weapons. So actually help us to learn a lot. So for Naja, especially for the animated film, for the very beginning, actually, it's quite hard for fundraising because institutions not really positive on China's animated film. But right now, you look at Naja 1 and Naja 2, it's way beyond people's expectation. And we really make our progress on that a great ancestors' achievements. Thank you, Mr. Meng, that shared with us your experience from the very early days of the Chinese animated film, and also you witnessed the development of the animated industry development. So we talk about started from 1926. The Wan brothers created the first truly domestically produced Chinese animated film, Uproar in the Studio, and Chinese animation has developed over a century. We talk about that's the 1961, the havoc it happened to the 1971 film Naja Conquered the Dragon King, and also to that a Monkey King, the Hero is Back, and Big Fish, and Begonia, Deep Sea, and Chang'an. That Chinese animation has never stopped innovating and breaking boundaries. So for the success of Naja 2, that also reflects that's the achievements made by the industry. So let's learn about the collective creation. lot of really that CA flashing moments. Actually, Ne Jia too should give the credit to Mr. Meng's team for their hard work over the years. And we look at the creation of Ne Jia 2 has brought together the efforts of 138 domestic studios and over 4,000 Chinese animation professionals. So for gentlemen, what do you think are the key factors behind the success of this model, and what impact will this model have on the future of China's animation industry? So we could start with Mr. Meng. We talk about the success of Ne Jia 2. I believe the reason behind is that we have a quite mature industrial system, and also for the people actually in this industry, that the director, actually they are very, very professional. So they actually also selected the professional suppliers, and also the cooperation among the suppliers actually is really, really close. So we talk about we have different models that we have that multiple suppliers work together under one producer, and also we talk about one company that owns the whole industrial process. So we talk about one company, they have their own production line, and each year they could produce one film. Kind of like a Disney industrial process. So in China, especially in animation industry, compared to the developed countries, we still see late mover. Another cooperation model overseas is that the producer, actually the project by projects, when they had a project, then they gathered a lot of artists together, suppliers together. So it is more like a cooperation based on the project. But in China, we talk about the different studios, we work together to create one piece. So going forward, I believe that for the Western industrial system, it could be the possibility for the Chinese industries. Yes, that could be possible, but also there should be some differences. So for my understanding, is that the way of that the studios operating and the way of working is still different. So that we talk about, we will have our own model, industrial model, or that maybe we could also to learn and also make some reference of the overseas model. Thank you for your sharing. For Raymond, the question to you, what's your take? We talk about for Disney and Pixar. They actually do quite a good job, and they also actually do a leading job, and that's the establishing the way of work. So that is also the reason behind that they could produce a lot of very successful work. And also we talk about that for the Japanese industry. They actually work based on the small studio. So that for the Mr. Miyazaki Hayao, so they actually produce really high quality piece, but they're not really that productive compared to that Pixar or Disney. So for the Japanese industry, they actually bring the whole industry to a higher level in terms of quality. So for Chinese animation industry, we learned from the Japanese industry as well as the US and Europe industry. So we talk about that for the American industry. They could produce quite a good quality film per year. But for Japanese the industry, you could see that they actually preserve something Japan And people really can tell, oh, that's Japanese animation, but also with a very, very high quality. So for us, we know actually this is really require a lot of that really detailed work. So we talk about that small elements that require many years of work. So we talk about that we should strike a balance between the quality and also the productivity. So for us, we need to think about that oversourcing could be a way inside of that model, but you also need to guarantee quality. So you need to have the shared vision. So we could see that from Director Jiao Zi of哪吒. We could really see that. We talk about, actually, we could really see that very clearly from Mr. Miyazaki Hayao. So you could not really mention his name, but everyone, when you look at the film, you know it's from him. Right? So we look at the Chinese industry, especially in the recent decade. We could really see that we learned a lot from that the first movers, and we also introduced something Chinese into the market. This is something we should cherish. And because of this operation model, we talk about it's not really which right, which wrong. So you really find out that mode that fits in your condition. We should learn from each other, right? But you also need to modify that fits in your situation. As you mentioned, that the Chinese animation film actually is the history of that industry quite long, but we talk about the market size and also influence. The Chinese animation film is still quite young in this respect. So we talk about previously, it's not really commercial. We talk about it's really high quality, but not really commercial. It's really for the niche market. But right now, you look at that the box office of哪吒 2, and we also talk about that right now the key is they spend hours of a day to watch animations. That's totally different way of life compared to my younger age. So we talk about right now, for the current situation, we talk about right now the Chinese animation film industry right now get back to the scene, to in front of the people. So we actually not really have produced that really the find our direction, which started from that Monkey King Hero is Back to哪吒 1 and 2. We really find our way how to really do that animated film for the market, for the Chinese audience, for the global audience. I believe we really find our way how to really play the game, sort of say. So when we really see is that we not really say every film should be like哪吒, but we could see that each movie, at least we could see that from哪吒 1 to哪吒 2, we already saw that the progress. We talk about that for animation, the industrial process is very, very important. We not really operate for the small studio. Right now, we really look at how we could really enlarge the scale, because especially for Chinese markets, huge, right? Thank you, Raymond. Yes, indeed, you brought a lot of insights based on your understanding, and also actually from your words, we really know that you learned a lot, you know from A to Z about Chinese industry. So, Mr. Meng, we talk about when哪吒breaks into the top 10 of the world's box office on Hot Wheels, what impact do you think it will have on the future of Chinese animation industry? Yes, indeed. Right now, that's great success, actually way beyond our expectation. We could see that's a really a big applause to the whole animation industry, because they actually really talk about the possibility for the whole industry. Because we have been keeping learning and keeping growing for ourselves. The most difficult thing is how to really produce more IPs. If the capital market really see the possibility of animation industry, then a lot of things could happen in the future, right? And more capitals will be the patient capitals, so they could really wait for the excellent work come out, because previously they ask you, can you be quick? Can you be really in a short time to produce really that's the blockbuster? Right now, I believe that Ne Zha really tell that's the possibility. So I believe the capitals could really wait for the quality work come out, and also for the talent cultivation and talent, the retaining. That's also very good news to this part. So for the whole Chinese animation industry, especially the practitioners, this is really good news and also the good impetus. Yes, indeed, as Mr. Meng mentioned, the success of Ne Zha really show that people love quality animated film. And Raymond, question to you is, what do you think that the emergence of such excellent Chinese film, including Ne Zha, will do to our cultural confidence and communication? This is so important. I really would like to say that in the past the 2 to 3 decades, the Chinese animated industry actually hit its low. So a lot of people believe that's really difficult, or there's no hope that Chinese animation industry could catch up the Japanese or American animation industry. But right now we could see that emergence of the excellent Chinese animation film, including Ne Zha, especially Ne Zha, we talk about it. It's really enjoyed good reputation. It's quality film, and also the box tickets, box office really speaks something, right? So we talk about that oldies, let people know our traditional IP. Actually, we have a lot of this is really the inspirations already there. But the thing is that you should be really smart to make that adaptations into the current context. For Ne Zha 2 around the world right now is the highest grossing animated film of all time. And right now it's also #1 in a single market in terms of a box office. We talk about this is really the concrete result, right? So as long as you dedicate it, the good results come naturally, right? So we talk about, as Mr. Meng said, that the capital market will also see these achievements. So we talk about we not really cheat that the audience, then that the people saying actually just speaking too high about your film. So people did not really buy in, especially audience did not buy in. But if you look at Ne Zha, that spent 5 years to really did a good job in all details, including storytelling, storyboards, animation, ODs, the VFX. So people actually saw, oh, you're hardworking. I believe this is something really people really love, no matter if you're a domestic audience or international audience. So people really love it. So we talk about the something really from these stories across the world they can really understand and resonate with you from your story. I believe this is something we're really proud of our traditional culture. Thank you very much. Raymond mentioned about culture confidence. Mr. Meng imagined the future of the industry. Thank you very much, Raymond and Mr. Meng, for bringing us great insights about the Chinese animated industry. Thank you.
Raymond and I will take you on a global journey to see what Ne Zha brings to the world. And let's hear what Tony Bancroft, the director of Disney's Mulan, has to say first.
Hi, I'm Tony Bancroft. I went to a screening actually just this weekend, and I saw Ne Zha 2. I was blown away by what I saw. I haven't seen anything like that really in computer animation to that level of quality, of scope and scale, really anything like that in the US. So I was very impressed by what China has done with that film. I was a Disney animator and director for 35 years in the animation industry. I co-directed Disney's Mulan, but also animated on Lion King and Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, and Emperor's New Groove. Pixar is already like this really top studio. And for China to come out with a movie that tops that even is very impressive and adds a lot of credibility for China. I particularly like this beat here. I love this pose too, because it just feels the audience with this feeling of like, it's not a problem, and it has a lot of character to it. And then as you're watching him, he gets punched. And you can see they use the color of the nose and the lighting to help see those hits. Because if it was a profile, you could see that nose touch a lot easier. But from this over-the-shoulder angle, you had to really rely on the color changes to show that impression that he's making on the nose. I just heard that Ninja 2 has already surpassed Inside Out 2, which for the US has broken all the records. So to imagine that this movie worldwide is already such a phenomenal success is so phenomenal, so great. I mean, I'm totally surprised by it. Yeah, I think there's a lot of space in the global market of movies, and particularly with animation, for China to rise up and be a major player. I really do. I think that now is the time that all the international studios out there that are producing animation can really bolster up their products and really make a lot of great movies. I think we're hungry for it. I think the audience is there. They want to see more Chinese films, and Ninja 2 and Ninja 1 has really proven that. I'm so encouraged by what's happening in the Chinese animation market, and I just want to encourage all the script writers and animators and artists out there to continue to reach for great quality. You already have a wonderful culture with interesting legends and folk tales. Do that, bring that to the world, and I think they're going to love it and love you for it. I personally want to say to Zhao Zi, who's the director of the first and the second Na Zhao films, I'm blown away. I think that what you've done with the creativity and the quality of your crew is phenomenal. And the first one I loved, the second one is even better. So I can't wait to see what you make with number 3.
And as a general audience, how do they feel about the film? Let's find out. Well, we got Kevin Roy 2908 said, back from the cinema now, the movie's definitely worth the hype. And we got Omega just to go watch it in the theater, worth it. And we got Bunny 11344 said, saw this last night on Valentine's Day in Canada and the theater was packed. Love this movie so much. I had tears coming down my face at one point. Definitely a movie I want to go back and rewatch it again. And we got Specialist Part 702 said, I really liked the first one. Glad to see the country other than US and the company other than Disney breaks some records. Well, the comments like this are so many, and Nozha are definitely sparkling conversations worldwide. Speaking of global resonance, let's welcome our 2 other guests, bridging cultures. We have Jack, a UK-born game localization expert and content creator, and we have Alina, a report from RT China. Welcome.
Thank you, Jen. Great to be here.
Great to be having you with us. And Jack, Alina, as a global storyteller yourself, can you share with us what were your initial reactions to Nozha 2? What struck you the most? Alina, maybe you'll go first.
Yeah, I mean, I live in Russia, in Moscow, but we often go to China for work. So last time I've been there just for Winter Asian Games in Harbin, and I knew that Nozha 2 is going to be was about to be in the cinema just these days. So I thought, okay, I knew Nozha and I really wanted to see that because I knew that the first part was terrific and I knew that the second one will be just perfect, just amazing. So I thought if I have this chance to be in China, I really need to go there. So when I saw that, I was like, wow, it's better than any American blockbuster that I've ever seen. And it is supposed to be a cartoon, but I don't think that this like this cartoon not only for kids, like I think everyone can learn from Neja, and the values that are in the movie, like they are so much deeper for understanding. So my first reaction was from the story part, from the 特效, like from the animated details. It just sets the whole top level of how the cartoon movie should be. Like China just breaks the record and just shows what is an example of the perfect cartoon from all the meanings of this word.
Thank you, Alina. What about you, Jack?
Yeah, I think after watching Ne Zha 2, I was incredibly impressed. Not only were the visuals some of the best I've ever seen in an animated film or in any other animated piece of work, but I think the story and the depth of the characters were, I think, written incredibly well. There were a lot of emotional moments, and I did shed a few tears while watching the film. But I think actually what I found most moving about it was Sheng Gongbao's story, and I think his story arc throughout the two films. Because obviously he was shown in parts to be a bit of a villain, and he was perhaps misunderstood in some ways. But in fact, at the end of the second film, he actually showed himself to be a hero, saving Ne Zha's family even after just losing his own. So I think this kind of story arc and depth to the characters really showed that, as Alina said, it's much more than just a simple cartoon, but actually it's got a lot of depth and it's got stories and characters that I think will resonate with all different kinds of audiences. So I loved it.
Well, I think your thoughts on this emotional layers reminds me that the beauty in this film isn't just skin deep. Well, speaking of visual beauty, if you have to freeze one frame from the film as a poster, what would it be? Jack, what's your answer?
I think the city of Chengtanguan was beautifully designed, hidden away in the mountains as it was. It really struck me as an incredibly beautiful landscape. I think perhaps part of the reason that it left an especially deep impression on me was because I've actually visited the karst limestone landscape of Guilin in Guangxi, and I believe that that's the location that Chengtanguan was actually based on. So it's fascinating to see how the film actually incorporated real-life landscapes in China into the setting. And hopefully in future, I think it might inspire even more people to visit Guilin from all over the world. Similar to how I think the Avatar franchise inspired many people from all over the world to visit Zhangjiajie.
Me too. I actually also feel like this place, like the Nature House, is just was designed so beautiful. Because I've never been to Guilin, and first I even asked my friend, because I've been in the movie with my Chinese friend, and I asked what's the place, and we thought maybe it's Tianjin. I've been to Tianjin, and then I'm like, no, Tianjin is beautiful, but it's more like industrial. And then I've checked some videos in Douyin, and I've seen that actually this is the real place in China. And we know that Guilin, 山水甲天下. I've never been there, but after the movie, I even want to go there more and see it with my own eyes. I believe that, I mean, in the movie it was spectacular, but maybe in the real life it's just magical.
Well, you definitely got to visit those places. Well, there are so many places of interest in landscape in China that actually inspire a lot of film and a lot of cultural products. Well, and let's talk about this movie again. From Taoist immortal to rhyming slang, did the cultural density in this film ever feel overwhelming? Alina?
Yeah, I mean, like, I actually want to share, like, I want to speak from this side, like, if this movie is hard to understand for foreigners, because when I watched the Ne Zha 2, like, I made some videos in my social media, and a lot of Chinese friends were asking me, do you understand Ne Zha 背后, like, the 因素and all of that? And actually, the thing that moved me the most was it was almost in the end of the movie when the scene with Neja and the mom. And the mom said, like, 娘不在乎 Neja 是不是母? Like mom doesn't care if who is Neja. Mom just cares that Neja is her son. And it was just so heartbreaking. I mean, you do not need to be Chinese. It doesn't matter, like, what nation you're from, what country you're from. It only, like, we all speak this language. It's like common language of the world, of the humanity. And the this thing just made me so made me so speechless. And the second scene that made me so, I mean, everyone says this scene is just gave them a big impression, but I mean, like the last scene when Neja was asked, do you think that you can still change the world? And Neja just replies, well, like, 试试看看吧. Like, I'm gonna see if I can. And it just leaves you with such a desire to fight, even if it's hard, when you feel like you're broken, just gives you power and motivates you. I think this is the beauty of the movie, of inspiring people to do more than they can.
What about you, Jack?
Yeah, I think I really agree with Alina. I think one thing that makes Ne Zha 2 so special is that one, it does lean heavily into traditional Chinese culture, and it tells a story that very much uses this culture. I think the moral of the story and the outcome is something that's very much universal, and it can be enjoyed and understood by international audiences who maybe don't have much knowledge of Chinese mythology. And I think it's actually done so well that it can even be understood without watching the first film either. However, I guess I don't think I would say that this isn't because there isn't a threshold of cultural understanding. I think rather it's that Ne Zha 2 did a fantastic job of overcoming this by telling a story that resonates with audiences all over the world. It reminds me of a slightly different feeling I had of when I went to watch Shediao, the film. And at that, I did struggle to understand that film a little bit because I felt that it was almost asking you or requesting you to understand more of the background. Whereas with Ne Zha 2, whilst it was telling you a story from the perspective of Chinese culture, it was telling you a complete, unique story. So whilst I would say that this threshold does exist, I think Ne Zha is proof that it can be overcome if the film is done well enough. And if you create a story that you know will resonate with, audiences from all over the world.
Thank you, Jack. Raymond, in your opinion, how do we balance the exotic charm and cultural barriers?
Oh, well, just as Jack said, Ne Zha, the two Ne Zha movies actually have done a very good job balancing the cultural elements and the universal appeal. But I feel that because we already have data from the last week of international release, which is pretty good for a regular Chinese movie, but not really lives up to the expectations. It's a little above 100 million yuan outside overseas market of total gross. I saw Ne Zha in Houston, Texas, so I knew the audience makeup of the movie, and also I saw like more than a dozen Chinese New Year releases in Houston, so I know that most of the audience members are ethnic Chinese. And the reason is not because the movie doesn't have the ability to cross over, but rather the ability of the distributor to attract an international audience. Because the distributor needs to tell the potential audiences overseas what kind of story or what kind of character Ne Zha is. They need to help the potential audiences to overcome the cultural barrier. And from what I saw, the first 15 minutes could pose some problems for a newbie, someone who don't know anything about the story, who haven't seen the first movie of Ne Zha. It's kind of hard because it contains a lot of proper nouns, and most of these proper nouns are transliterated rather than explained. And this is good for the ethnic Chinese because we all know the story so well. But even say the title itself, saying Ne Zha, it doesn't mean anything for someone who doesn't already know the character or the story, right? So you have to give people something to entice them, like what kind of story is that, what kind of character is that, it's a family film, or I thought about maybe we should use Demon Boy, but Demon Boy sounds like a horror movie, right? So it's really hard to use distribution techniques, promotional methods to entice the vast world who doesn't really know so much, who's not steeped in Chinese culture. And that, for me, is the potential that should be tapped. And it takes a lot of technique of cross-cultural talent, people who not just understand the two languages, but really can tell the story well. I think Zhao and his team has done an excellent job. After the first 15 minutes, I feel that most people can get the mainstay of the story, and there's no problem understanding it. But the first 15 minutes really poses some problem. And also, before the 15 minutes, you need people to get interested enough to buy the ticket, right? So you need to prepare a synopsis. You need to prepare trailers that are targeting an international audience rather than a Chinese or ethnic Chinese audience. They should be very different. So I feel that for Ne Zha to gain, say, twice or many times the current overseas growth that it has achieved, it probably needs a mainstream distributor who's very experienced in distributing global films. And in that regard, I feel that we have still a long way to go, and
Well, I have to say there are some really good points made, Raymond. And Raymond, I have to ask a question that China's animation right now rivals with, for example, Disney, Pixar in terms of technical prowess. But when we peel back the CGI, do you see the shared values shining through, for example, courage, family, love, friendship, or is it more like a distinct Eastern philosophy shaping the narratives differently? What's your opinion?
I feel that the core value is actually universal. I feel one of the greatnesses of the Ne Zha series is it has all this traditional Chinese facade, but underneath it's a universal story. That's why it has universal appeal. It's on a par with the best of Disney, the best of Miyazaki, the best of Pixar, and that's something important because animation movies, especially when you target it as a mass entertainment product, it has to have this crossover appeal. You cannot make it for just one segment, one demographic. You have to make it for everyone, and that makes it so hard. And I think Chinese animation is on the way to achieving that, and Ne Zha, especially Ne Zha 2, has done a great job. All that needs to be done more, better, is in the distribution and promotion side of the industry.
What about you, Alina? Do you agree? What's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Western movies and some companies like Disney, Pixar, they often are concentrated on Western values, and which is rooted mostly in individualism, in self-discovery, in pursuing your own dream, and which is not bad, which is absolutely amazing too. Like we have the example of Coco and the Miguel, who spent basically in the movie he was in looking for oneself. But in comparison, we have Ne Zha and we have Ne Zha, and the values in the movie, they are more likely reflected in Confucian ideas in Rujia Sixian, because it's like the bridge between pursuing your dreams but also contributing to society, to the family, and it's about the duty as well. So it's not like individualism, it's also the serving yourself for the society. So I think this is the main difference between the companies.
Thank you, Alina. And Jack, we all know that Ne Zha 2 has got a huge domestic triumph. So what lessons does this hold for Chinese animation industry when pursuing international influence?
I think it's interesting when we talk about international, pursuing international influence with Chinese films. And I think especially amid international media comments that Nurja, can't be seen as a global hit because the majority of its success has come from within China. I think if anything, the film has shown that Chinese animated films, they don't actually need to pursue that. They don't need to pursue being a global hit. Of course, that's a bonus. Of course, that's going to bring more box office numbers long term. But if you make a film that's of a high enough quality, the Chinese consumer market is strong enough to make sure that that film will be a hit. And I think the amount of box office records that Nurja has broken proves that. And I think, especially since such a high amount of those numbers have come from within China, if anything, it shows that this is only the beginning. And once we get something like Nurja that is also just as big outside of China, I think that's when we'll start to see real records being broken, because the quality of the film is obviously already there. And I think if the quality of the film is good enough, then long term, it will be noticed and this will be recognized by an international audience, because people like to watch good films and films that have universal appeal. But I think, as we've already mentioned, you definitely need to factor in things like the quality of the distribution and the marketing and successful localization of either the subtitles or the dubs, because these are things that play a huge part. We know that, I think, English moviegoers or native English speakers, they don't have the greatest tolerance for watching subtitled films in the first place. So I think the quality of those subtitles is vital to ensure that the audience can actually enjoy the film. And it also, going back to the last question, it is also, I think, what helps overcome the threshold of whether audiences can really understand the film's more Chinese setting. So I think that is definitely something that animation studios will be starting to think about. But I think as well, the entire distribution needs to be, I think, really considered as almost as important as the quality of the film itself. Because if the film isn't even shown in cinemas, then it doesn't matter how many people want to see it.
Thank you, Jack. I really like when you're saying this is only the beginning, this is only the start. Raymond, what's your observation on this?
I totally agree with Jack. I think, yeah, the quality is there, and now we need to spread the word. And spreading the word takes a lot of technique. And in the modern world, it's a huge business. Marketing requires all kinds of skills, especially cross-cultural marketing. And I think to let people know what you have, what kind of story you have, and let them expose them to this great movie. It takes a while. It will take a while. And of course, it will catch on gradually, because we are having not just one Nurja, but a slew of really top quality Chinese animation films. And that's the good news.
Thank you, Raymond. Jack, as a local game localization expert, do you think there's any experience in game localization that we can use as a reference for Chinese animation to go overseas?
For sure, yeah. I think there's a lot of crossover between the two industries. For example, with localization of games, I think when we look at translating subtitles and writing the subtitles for Chinese films, a lot of the best practices that we take from game localization can also be applied there. I think looking at Black Myth Wukong as an example, that game's localization did a fantastic job of making the story and characters accessible to a global audience without losing its identity. So the audience playing it knew that this is a story that's steeped in Chinese mythology, but at the same time, they could also understand it, and there was fantastic, I think, English language storytelling that took place within the game. So I think that's something that Nurja's English subtitles translation could definitely learn from. I must admit that having seen the film within China, I haven't seen the English subtitles, so it's not that easy for me to comment on the quality of them. But I think there's something that I think there's definitely crossover between translating the content of games and translating the subtitles, because I think being able to tell the story while also making sure that the core essence isn't lost is something that I think both industries are trying really hard to do. For example, one thing I believe is particularly important and that I think Black Myth Wukong did really well was using pinyin and retaining the pinyin in the translation so that the audience understood that some of these concepts were actually unique Chinese concepts. So, for example, with things such as Yao Guai or Long, they decided not to translate them into monster or dragon because this might give Western audiences a bit of a misconception that, they would have previous experience with the word of monster or dragon and they would form their own ideas. Whereas this is, I think, not accurate for the concept that was trying to be portrayed in the game. So I think this allows audiences the opportunity to learn about the unique Chinese mythology and learn actually what a Long is or what a Yao Guai is and how they are represented in mythology rather than just associating them with Western concepts they already know.
Thank you, Jack, for your insights. And from Gen Z impact to Black Myth Wukong, from the Wandering Earth to Ne Zha, we can see that recent years Chinese cultural exports are booming. So what is the golden rule for global storytelling? Alina, Raymond, what's your take? Alina, maybe you go first.
Yeah. I mean, I also want to say that, like, about the Ne Zha, that we are so excited because just a few days ago we also received the news that it's gonna be in Russian cinema. So I totally agree with insights of Jack that the translation there it just takes like in the pinyin version, like with some from some Chinese mythology, like it should just be left as it's like in its original version. So first of all, yeah, very excited that Ne Zha is also coming to Russia. It goes global, and I'm just gonna recommend all my friends go and watch it. And from my perspective, like Chinese movies, like they go abroad, like they go wide. And last years, we just seen that the quality of the movies is not only overcomes some Western cinema, but it just sets the whole new standards. And I don't think that it's something that comes suddenly. I think this is the result of the hard work that Chinese people put in the movie production. Even for the Ne Zha movie, I read the director Jiaozi, the interview where he was saying that originally it was supposed to be a movie like made by an international team, but in the end of the day, it was, like, as you said, more than 4,000 Chinese artists that came together, and they were supposed to do like the details, the animated details for 3 to 4 months, but it took them 11 months to achieve them in order to receive perfection. So I think this is the hard work of and good values and the standards that Chinese people put into the work, so we can see the Chinese people all spread around the world. I've been to the bookshop just yesterday, and I was so amazed that I've actually seen, because normally we can see a lot of Western books, some booksellers, and I've seen like 听官赐福. I don't know how to translate that in English, but I've seen a lot of Chinese classical novels. I've seen the Liu Cixin, The Wandering Earth, and which all of that tells us that the Western culture has its place, but the Chinese culture just goes into the world, and the values that it brings with itself is just makes people to have a whole new look on life. So I'm just proud, and I'm really, really happy, and looking forward Ne Zha to be here in Russia.
Thank you, Alina. Raymond, what's your take on this?
Well, I feel that there's a delicate ratio between your cultural heritage and the global elements, the global appeal. It cannot really be scientifically calculated. You can only kind of, grope in the dark, to borrow a Chinese teaching opera phrase, to gauge it, to feel it, whether it's the right ratio. Because if you keep it too Chinese, then you probably can only attract a very small coterie of cinephiles, people who already know a lot about China, about Chinese culture. But if you skew it the other direction, then you lose your cultural identity. So it's very, very hard to keep that balance. Just to take the Jack's point, I feel that there should at least be 3 translations. One for dubbing. Right now in the international market, there's no dubbing, and if you don't dub, say in the United States, you don't dub it into English, anyone under the age of 10 wouldn't watch it because they cannot read the subtitle, even if they want it. And when the subtitle is very well done, but still there are too many words. I couldn't keep up with the speed. Even for me, I consider myself a fast reader. And I feel the dubbing version, the translation, is different from the subtitle version for the big screen and the subtitle version for home video. Because when you watch it on home video, you can pause. So you can add more information. You can have more cultural elements that people can pause to digest. So there's not one right way. There are multiple ways, and you have to experiment, to explore, to see which is the best approach to target a certain audience. And that I feel that it's fascinating for me, and I'm sure they're going to make great progress down the road.
Thank you, Raymond. Well, let's end today's discussion with a very creative game. Well, let's say you are pitching this film to your own country. Alina, Jack, please share with me a slogan that captures Nejia's I own my own destiny spirit while clinking with the Gen Z worldwide. What's your slogan, Alina?
I would say something like rebel your own destiny and become your own hero, or rise as your own hero, something like that.
Okay, and Jack, how about you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think Nejia's rebellious spirit and his journey to accept his own identity are some of the key themes of the film. So perhaps something like defy destiny, unleash your spirit, which I think captures Nejia's fight to rewrite his fate. Or perhaps something like courage forged in chaos, which I think highlights his character whilst also referencing the source of his birth. Something like that I think could be interesting. But I'd be keen to see how the experts do it for sure.
Well, Raymond, which one do you like better? Or do you even have come up with a better one?
Well, I have, off my head, I may be born bad, but I want to do good.
Oh, that's very good point made. Well, thank you, Alina, Raymond, Jack, for this electrifying dialogue today we had. Well, Nejia 2's journey from smashing box office records and to building cultural bridges has definitely shows that Chinese animation is rewriting the rules with technology as its backbone and heritage as its soul. May every frame of Chinese artistry will tell a story that inspires and resonates with the world. Till next time, bye-bye.
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 Bye-bye.